Welcome to the Convenience Center. This panel is intended to be a central location where tasks associated with the plumbing system can be performed. It is located in the driver's side storage bay, or as I like to call it, the basement. There are also coax connections for those that have cable services or external satellites, as well as an electrical outlet to power such appliances if necessary. The valves are used to manipulate the flow of fluid throughout the piping. And while there are valve configuration settings, the manufacturer does not provide schematics. So, I decided to crawl into the storage compartment, take a look at what was going on behind the scenes, and map it out myself. Before I get too far ahead of myself, it is best to first take a look at the operation of a single valve. This will be crucial to understanding how the flow of fluid is impacted. Here's a look at the internal workings. There are three positions that the valve can sit in: left, down, and to the right. Each position has its own characteristic with respect to how water is allowed to flow through it. Let's take a look at the valve when it's pointing to the left. In this position, all three pathways are open, allowing water to flow through the valve unrestricted in all directions. Let's take a look at how the valve operates when it's in the down position. In this position, water is allowed to flow freely between the lower and the right openings. However, the left opening is blocked. When the valve is pointing to the right, water is allowed to flow between the left and the right openings while the lower opening is blocked. With a better understanding of how the valve positions actually work, we can now take a look at how the different combinations of the three valves impact the flow across the entire system. Here's a look at my diagram that details the source portion of the plumbing system. A couple things I want to mention ahead of time. There are two check valves in this system for those that aren't familiar with the symbols. Basically, the purpose of a check valve is to ensure that water flows in only one direction. There's a check valve after the water heater. It ensures that there's no backflush into the hot water tank. It's particularly important for the winterization and water heater bypass valve configurations. There's also a check valve right after the city connection inlet. This is to avoid that when the water pump is in use, that water doesn't come spewing out of that inlet. Unfortunately, this also makes gravity filling your freshwater tank practically impossible, as most gravity fill systems typically don't have enough PSI to get past the check valve. So now that that's out of the way, let's take a look at how the water flows based on the different configurations that were supplied by the manufacturer. Let's take a look at the freshwater fill configuration, in which all valves are turned to the right. This effectively opens up a direct path straight to the water tank. Now there are two options. You can either fill with the city water inlet, or hook up a hose to the siphon valve and use the water pump to pump in water directly into the freshwater tank. When filling the water tank is complete, or simply using city water directly, the standard configuration is to have the red valve pointing to the left, the blue valve pointing down, and the black valve pointing to the right. This configuration allows the water pump to pump water out of the water tank and into the plumbing system. This configuration also permits the use of a city water connection, without the use of the pump. Keep in mind that this option relies on the pressure provided by the source. Pressure that is too low results in a crappy shower, while pressure that is too high will break the pipes. City water pressure commonly ranges between 80 psi and 160 psi, and while most RVs are tested to withstand up to 100 psi, RV manufacturers commonly advise 40 psi, which is pretty lame. I find this to be ridiculously low, and since my water pump, which is still factory, shuts off when the pressure reaches 55 psi, I simply added a 55 psi regulator to the city water inlet to make sure that any high-pressure water source is damped down to something that still gives me decent showers while not destroying the pipes. Sometimes there's a need to bypass the water heater. To do so, simply turn the blue and the black valve so that they are pointing down. The position of the red valve has no bearing on this function, and is only relevant if the water pump is being used to deliver water instead of the city water inlet. I typically only bypass the water heater when it is being sanitized, because I let the cleaning solution sit in the heater for a day or two, and I still need to make use of the rest of the plumbing during this time. Other than that, I don't bypass it, as it provides me with an additional 10 gallons of water, regardless of whether or not it's even turned on. The final configuration is used specifically for protecting the plumbing system from freezing temperatures. The concept is to fill the pipes with antifreeze to prevent ice from forming inside of them, which would otherwise expand and rupture the seals and the pipes. The process is fairly simple. All the valves are moved to the down position. As discussed in the previous configuration, the blue and the black valves are in the down position to bypass the water heater. The red valve is in the down position to employ the siphoning function. A bucket is then filled with antifreeze and pumped into the plumbing system while each delivery medium is opened. This means washer, dryer valves, faucets, showers, etc. Basically, these need to be sequentially opened until antifreeze starts to come out of them before turning them off. Well, this concludes the detailed walkthrough of the mysterious Open Range Convenience Center valve settings. I hope you enjoyed this video, and maybe even learned a thing or two. This is Mark, striving to go beyond high hopes. Thank you for watching, and be safe.